I found out my husband cheated. Not once, but with 2 different women. His silence was deafening during the confrontation. So I packed our bags, took our child, and left. Now he's begging. But after a year of him doing nothing as a dad. Am I wrong for wanting full custody? So picture this morning. It started like any other, really. I needed my husband's work schedule. Same old routine. His phone was just lying there. So I picked it up, intending to quickly swipe through and find what I needed. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just a mundane morning task. But then, something weird happened. As I was trying to navigate, the phone just glitched. Not a full freeze, but like a hiccup in the system. And suddenly, the screen changed. It didn't just go back to the home screen or open an app. It took me straight to his deleted messages. Honestly, my first thought was just, ugh, technology. But then, I saw it. A conversation thread with a number I didn't recognize, popping up among the old, cleared out texts. It caught my eye immediately because it wasn't just some random spam. The snippets I could see were familiar in a bad way. My stomach started to knot. Why would this be in deleted messages? And who is this person? My mind was racing, trying to make sense of the sudden, jarring switch. Part of me wanted to just put the phone down, pretend I hadn't seen it. But another part, stronger, more insistent, demanded answers. It felt like a spotlight had been shown on something hidden, and I couldn't just turn away. My fingers, almost on their own, tapped on the conversation. As I scrolled through, it wasn't just 1 or 2 flirty texts. It was a whole back and forth. The kind of messages you send when you're trying to set something up. Something intimate. The knot in my stomach tightened into a hard, cold ball. This can't be real. This is a mistake. My brain was trying to rationalize, to find any innocent explanation. But the words on the screen were stark and unambiguous. There was talk of meeting up, veiled suggestions, the clear intention of something beyond friendship. I took a deep breath. Or tried to. But it felt like my lungs wouldn't fully expand. My first instinct was to just ignore it. But then I thought, no, I need to know. So, my hands trembling slightly, I tapped the screen to text the unknown number. Just a simple, "Who is this?" I typed, my heart hammering in my chest. The reply came back quickly, confirming my worst fears. It was a woman, and the context of her message made it undeniably clear. This was someone my husband had been actively trying to sleep with. The air felt thin, like I couldn't get enough oxygen. It wasn't just a random glitch anymore. This was a revelation. But then, as if the universe wasn't done throwing punches, my thumb scrolled a little further, deeper into the phone's hidden corners. And that's when I found her. Another thread. The girl from his work. The one ID mentioned being worried about him being around. My worry, it turns out, was utterly justified, but in a way far worse than it imagined. The messages weren't just about trying to sleep with her. They were concrete, undeniable proof. He hadn't just tried with this one. Had succeeded. He had sex with her. My world. The one I'd built with him since we were kids. The one we had a child in. Just fractured into a million pieces. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was irrefutable. Ugly fact. Laid bare on a small glowing screen. My initial goal of finding his work schedule now felt like a cruel joke. Instead, it stumbled into the wreckage of my entire relationship. My mind was reeling, trying to process 2 different women, 2 different betrayals, all in the span of a few minutes. I remember thinking, how could I have been so blind? How much of our life was a lie? The person I thought I knew, the father of my child, was suddenly a stranger. His secrets exposed, shattering everything. This wasn't just a breach of trust. It was a demolition. My hands were still shaking, gripping his phone so tightly my knuckles were white. The screen glowed with the proof of betrayal, stark and undeniable. My heart was pounding, a wild drumbeat in my ears. But beneath the shock, a fierce, cold clarity was starting to set in. This is it. This is really happening. There was no going back from what I'd seen. Every instinct in my body screamed to hide, to cry. But something else, something deeper, urged me forward. I had to confront him. Not just for me, but for our child. He was still asleep in our bed, oblivious. And the thought of him lying there, Dreaming, while I held this devastating truth, filled me with a sudden, burning resolve. I walked into the bedroom. The air felt heavy, thick with the unsaid, even though he was still sound asleep. The contrast between his peaceful slumber and the earthquake rumbling inside me was almost unbearable. I stood there for a second, just watching him, trying to reconcile the face I'd known since childhood with the person who had done this. It felt like looking at a stranger, taking a deep, ragged breath that did little to calm my racing heart. I reached out and shook his shoulder. "Wake up," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though it felt alien coming from my throat. "You need to see this." His eyes fluttered open, blinking against the morning light, confused. As he slowly came to, I shoved the phone in his face, open to the damning messages. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the bright screen, the undeniable words, do their work. His sleepy expression dissolved into something unreadable: shock. Maybe fear. Definitely guilt. He looked from the phone to me, his mouth opening and closing. But no sound came out. That's when I pulled up the contact for the woman he had sex with. The one from work. My fingers flew across the screen, dialing her number without a second thought. I put her on speaker. The phone rang once, twice, and then her voice came through, groggy and confused. "Hello. It's me," I said, my voice still steady. Even as I watched my husband's face drain of all color. "I found out everything. Tell him what you two did." And she did. She started talking, hesitant at first, then a torrent of details, confirming every gut-wrenching message, every awful suspicion. I watched my husband through it all. He sat there, frozen, his eyes wide, shifting between the phone and me. Not once did he deny it. Not once did he interrupt. Not once did he say anything. Just that terrible, deafening silence. It was almost worse than an argument. His silence was an admission, a complete surrender to the truth. And it solidified everything for me. In that moment, watching him sit there mute while his betrayal was laid bare, I knew. This is over. There was no going back from this. No trying to fix it. I hung up the phone. My husband finally looked at me. A flicker of something in his eyes, maybe a plea, maybe remorse, but it was too late. The words were already forming in my mind. Cold and precise. "You lost me," I told him, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "And you lost our child. I'm getting a divorce attorney. And am taking you to court for visitation rights. That's all you're getting." There was no yell, no scream, just a quiet, absolute finality. I didn't want him anymore. The person I thought he was. The future I thought we had. It was all gone. My love for our kid was absolute. But for him, there was nothing left but a vast, empty space where trust and respect used to be. I knew I couldn't be around him. The thought made my skin crawl. So, I walked out of the bedroom and started packing. My child's clothes. My clothes. Just grabbing what we needed. I was moving out. Tonight. The drive to my mom's house felt surreal. Almost like I was watching myself from outside my own body. My child was asleep in the back, thankfully oblivious to the seismic shift happening in our lives. Packing had been a blur, just grabbing essentials. The things we absolutely needed to start over. Pulling into my mom's driveway. The familiar porch light felt like a beacon. A small flicker of warmth in the freezing emotional landscape I was navigating. She was waiting for us. Her face etched with concern. But her hug was solid. A silent promise of support. This wasn't ideal, being back at my childhood home. But for now, it was safe. It was ours. Free from the betrayal that had poisoned our old one. Almost immediately, my phone started buzzing. Text from him. "Please come home. We can fix this. Don't take our child away." Each notification felt like a tiny, irritating sting, trying to chip away at the resolve I'd just painstakingly built. Fix this. My mind scoffed. There's no fixing a broken foundation. You don't just glue it back together and pretend the cracks aren't there. And the nerve. Talking about our child now. When for the past year, that child had primarily been my responsibility. I looked at the notifications popping up on my lock screen. He was trying to manipulate me. Guilt tripped me into retreating. Into accepting less than I deserved. Less than my child deserved. It wasn't even a debate in my head. My thumb moved decisively, finding the setting, and muting notifications from his contact. The sudden silence that followed was a small purr. Blessed relief. I needed to focus. Not be distracted by the pleas of someone who clearly didn't understand the depth of his actions. As I tucked my child into the temporary crib my mom had set up, a wave of exhaustion washed over me, but also a fierce, protective certainty. I looked at that innocent face, so trusting, so dependent, and my mind flashed back over the last year. 3 diapers, 1 bath, 2 bottles. Those weren't just random numbers. They were a damning tally. A stark reminder of his almost total absence from our child's life. He didn't know what size clothes our baby wore, what size diapers we bought. He never asked, never cared to stock up. It wasn't just about his infidelity anymore. It was about the fundamental imbalance in our partnership, in our parenthood. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I hadn't just been a mom. I had been a single mom all along. Doing everything. Working when he chose not to. Shouldering all the burdens while he lived a life detached from our family's needs. My resolve hardened, like steel setting. He wasn't just a cheater. He was an absent father. And that, more than anything, fortified my decision for full custody, with only visitation rights for him. It wasn't about spite. It was about giving my child the stability and consistent care they deserved. Care that had always come from me. My child and I. We deserved better than a partner who betrayed us. And a father who neglected his basic duties. I might hate the situation, the wreckage he created, but I am not going to let it define our future. This fight isn't just about a divorce. It's about reclaiming our dignity and securing a better life. This is all still so fresh, and I know the legal battle ahead is going to be tough, especially trying to prove parental neglect in court, when so much of it is subtle, everyday absence. Has anyone else navigated a divorce with parental neglect as a key factor for custody? Especially with a young child. What kind of evidence was helpful? And how do you deal with the emotional toll of fighting someone you've known your whole life, even when you know it's the right thing to do? Any advice on staying strong and focused would be a huge help right now.